How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Rowlet, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. So today we're going to do a little bit of a different video. Today we're doing a positives and negatives for Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Now, to begin with, this video is not a should you or should you not buy these games. This is simply me just going through some of the positives I've seen about these games and also the negatives I've seen about these games. And at the end, I'll have a conclusion and also my biggest problem with these games personally at the end, and how the philosophy of these games is very dangerous for the future of Pokemon. So I'll go through that and I'll explain my thoughts and opinions as we go through this. As you can see, there's not going to be any face cam, it's just going to be gameplay in the background while we are talking about these things. So let's get started with the positives, and we'll just kind of go through them here. And also, if there are any positives I've forgotten, then feel free to mention them in the comment section down below. And in the negatives as well, if I've got any negatives, feel free to mention them down below. I just kind of went off the top of my head. I plan to do this a little bit better and try to like spend at least a few more days on this, but due to my cold still sticking through and me wanting to get this video done specifically this weekend, I couldn't do that. So let's just get into it. So positives, graphics. Now, the graphics are decent. They are not horrible. They're not exactly like the Sun and Moon ones, though I feel like the Sun and Moon graphics were good, besides the fact that they were played on a poor, device, being the 3DS, having, poor resolution and stuff. But if you actually played Sun and Moon in higher, resolutions, the games look pretty good. And I'm gonna be honest, the Let's Go graphics don't look too bad. They actually look pretty good. The only issue I have with the graphics here is the reusing of the Pokemon Go models for all the Pokemon. I feel like, since these games only have 151 Pokemon, they could definitely have made brand new models that kind of fit the theme of the characters and stuff, because I feel like the Pokemon and the characters sometimes, and this is just a personal opinion, this is not something that's a positive, negative, whatever, it's just a personal opinion, but it feels like there's a little bit of an off between them, though they've done their best to change the textures and only keep really the models from Pokemon Go. Other than that, it's not really a big deal. The graphics are overall good, they're vibrant, they're supposed to be vibrant because they're meant for children, quote unquote, so they're of course going to be very colorful, so the kids feel like, ooh, look, it's candy. So yeah, that's a good one. Now, co-op is actually really cool. I never expected them ever to put in a co-op mode into Pokemon. It's something that I've only ever dreamt about. Now, the co-op mode has its own hiccups, which I'll cover in the negatives, but the co-op mode is cool. You're gonna be able to play with a friend of yours. It's only local, so you can only play in your vicinity next to you with your own console. It's on one console. There is no online play with it, but other than that, it's really cool. I love the fact that you're gonna be able to play with a friend right next to you, sit there, chill, and play Pokemon together. It's awesome. Now, the next one is character customization. Now, this is not really anything unique to these games. It's just slightly improved customization from Sun and Moon. It's kind of just carrying over what they've already done, but slightly improving on it. Of course, character customization is something that's loved by the community. A lot of people really love it. They've also added in the ability, of course, to change your skin color and stuff, which I think was also to some extent in the previous games in Sun and Moon as well. It was in the games as well. It was just, I guess, maybe lacked specific skin tones, but other than that, it was in the game, so that's awesome. And now it exists all across the boards and also in these games as well, which is awesome and great to know that they went the extra mile and added that in as well. So that's awesome. Character customization is great. That is still around. Again, not something super unique or brand new, but at least it's still there. So next up is following Pokemon. Again, a not very unique feature, but an old one that we really wanted. So following Pokemon is something that I think most of us would agree is something we all love. We all love having Pokemon follow us, and it's one of the greatest features that Pokemon ever created, because it's just so awesome seeing one of your largest Pokemon following you and stuff like that. So overall, I think it's a totally fun one. And alongside the following Pokemon, we have rideable Pokemon. Rideable Pokemon is something I never really thought that they'd go through the way they did, though I feel like there is a little bit of an issue where certain Pokemon are large enough to also be rideable, but they only make them followable. Like Articuno is large enough in the overworld, whereas where you could probably be flying on it, but instead they make it so it follows you, where I feel like it's a little bit they were a bit lazy here and didn't want to make the animations for you riding on several Pokemon, but only made it for a few, 5, 6, 7 maybe, for you to ride on, while the rest don't have that same thing for them, which is a little bit disappointing. But other than that, rideable Pokemon are awesome. I love the fact that they added that in. Now, what else? Well, Pokemon in the overworld. Now, this is a hit or miss, right? For some people, the Pokemon in the overworld is bad. To some other people, this is good. To me, it's a 50-50. In one way, I love that we're going to be able to see Pokemon in the overworld just for the fact that we can still see them. I feel like this could be a good way to mishmash where you have Pokemon in the overworld and still Pokemon in the grass. So you still have random encounters, but also overworld encounters. Why do I feel this? Well, I think this could add like a nice dynamic where, you know, 1 second you have Pokemon walking around in the overworld, and it's like a special Pokemon that walks around the overworld that you see, and then you walk in the grass and you can encounter more Pokemon. This will still keep the kind of randomness of random Pokemon, and also still offers several ways of shiny hunting, whereas these games currently don't seem to have many methods that are going to be available for shiny hunting, because of the lack of, you know, breeding Pokemon, you know, eggs and that sort of stuff, and also because of the lack of just grass, because you're really just like, you're literally just catching Pokemon in the overworld. You can see them in the overworld if they're shiny or not to begin with, so there's not going to be many options for that. But other than that though, I like the Pokemon in the overworld. I think they're fine, they fit with the game and the whole theme, so I'm okay with it. So overall, that one is fine. Now, what's next? Well, the final positive I have is the Go to Let's Go connectivity. Now, I don't like Pokemon Go that much. I think it's an okay game. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I feel like it's just a poor man's Pokemon journey. You know, just kind of like the budget version of, or you know, it's like the Walmart version of the Pokemon journey, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I just feel like they could have done that better. But other than that though, the Pokemon trading there is great. The only issue though is that it only works one way, from Let's Go Pikachu, you know, from Go to Let's Go Pikachu, right? That's the problem. Just being able to trade from Pokemon Go to Pokemon Let's Go is a little bit disappointing that you can't trade back to Pokemon Go as well from Let's Go. It's a little bit disappointing, but whatever. And also the fact you can only trade Kanto Pokemon because these games only have Pokemon up till Kanto, a little bit disappointing. So overall, not the best thing, but still, the fact you can trade between a mobile game now and like a proper Pokemon game on the console is pretty great. So those are the positives, guys. Again, I am sorry for including some of the negatives aspects to it, but I'll do also the positive aspects of the negatives. I'll try to kind of like balance it out the same way I did here in the positive section, but let's go to the negatives now, shall we? So let's start with the negatives, which would be the first one here, which is the most touted one. No wild battles. Now, why is it that this is not in the game? Now, I feel like we all can agree that wild battles can be tedious, but that's also the purpose of them. The reason why wild battles existed, and the reason why we still want wild battles, is because they offer several layers of gameplay. When you're just going around catching Pokemon, your only method of leveling is going to be to catch Pokemon. Sure, you can battle trainers, but that's still gonna be like way less XP than if you actually just battle Pokemon in the wild. This way, you'll just be catching Pokemon, and you'll be catching a plethora of them, making it less and less and less and less special to have that specific Pokemon. If you're in a specific area, right, and you gotta catch a Growlithe, sure, you catch a Growlithe and you're happy, right, you got a Growlithe. Oh, but to get more Growlithe, etc, 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 or you know, if you want to get a strong Growlithe, sure, you gotta catch more. That's like in all Pokemon games. But in this game, you're gonna be having to recatch that Pokemon in that specific area to level up, right? You can go back to previous areas, but you'll get less XP because of lower levels, etc. But you know, you're gonna be able to, you know, have to recatch the same Pokemon several times to get the better levels, or to increase your levels overall. So in normal gameplay with wild battles, you just go into the grass, defeat the Pokemon, and you know, keep doing that until you get your levels. That was the way it worked. With the lack of wild battles, that's gone. Also, shiny hunting methods are less and less now. With wild battles, you know, the opportunities for actual shiny hunting were larger. You had a lot of more opportunities for that. You know, I'm not sure how, if soft resetting is even going to be a thing, even though that really doesn't have much with, you know, wild battles to do. But like, how's that even going to work? You know, etc, etc, etc. There's a lot of things here that are very like, you know, how will this actually work out when you look at it from like a grand scope, right? How will this actually work? Like, is this even possible? Can we even do this? Like, how do we do this, man? I don't know, man. It's really confusing. But wild battles are just like, the lack of them is really disappointing. You know, being able to just kind of battle your way through a Pokemon and earn the right to catch it is now gone. There is no way to kind of earn that. You're just forced into it. There is no, like, you know, trial and error. You're just kind of forced into a specific, you know, thing. You have to, you know, hey, you wanna have this Pokemon, you can just catch it. You don't actually need to work your way for it. You just gotta just throw a Pokeball and you got it. There you go, it's yours. So yeah, it's a little bit of a negative. Now, the second negative is the lack of new features. Now, this is something that I think most people can agree to is literally just a really bad thing, because you never really want to be on the side of, oh yeah, I want less, I want less. That's just not what we want. No, we want more. And the problem with these games is they lack so many features. They lack they have so few new features as well. Like, if you think of the new features we really have here, the only new feature I can think of off the top of my head is the co-op mode. Besides the co-op mode, for the most part, all these already exist in previous games. Riding on Pokemon, that's already existing in previous games. Sun and Moon, there you go. What else? Pokemon following you, that's existed since Pokemon Yellow. Anything else? Well, I mean, most of these things that are, positive new things are features that exist in previous games. For example, Overworld Pokemon the Overworld, that is the touting feature of Pokemon Go. So again, this game lacks any unique new features besides co-op for itself. It doesn't have any more features of its own that aren't already in other games. And these are just like base level features, right? We haven't even yet talked about post-game features and that sort of stuff, and the lack of those. We haven't even got into that yet. So just in just one section of base level features, it's already missing a lot. So let's just go over then to post-game, the lack of post-game. That's another negative about these games. They seem to lack any comprehensive post-game. In previous games, we had stuff like the Battle Tree, or, for example, the Battle Frontier, right? These places you could go to, which offer a lot of replayability, as well as, in terms of post-game, you have shiny hunting. In these games, there seems to only be one way to shiny hunt, and that's enter a route, exit a route until a shiny Pokemon appears. There doesn't seem to be any actual proper method for it, which in itself already then removes a big part of the community that exists for Pokemon, which is the shiny hunting community. Well, on top of that, the lack of Wi-Fi battles. Well, there is Wi-Fi battles, sure, but there's only basic Wi-Fi battles, one-on-one battles, and double battles, and that's it. There isn't anything extra here. It's just kind of like this most surface level stuff you can think of. So in terms of post-game, you're really lacking. The only post-game that exists that we know of is completing your Pokédex, which again is nothing new. That's just a basic Pokemon principle, right? The same way that catching Pokemon is a principle in Pokemon. It's like if they remove the Pokeball, that's the same way that you see the Pokédex, right? If they remove the Pokeball, that's the same as if they removed you completing the Pokédex, right? It's just an essential part of Pokemon. The same way wild battles are an essential part of Pokemon, and yet they're still gone now, which is really disappointing. But like I said though, there is just a lack of post-game. There's a lack of things to do once you're done with the game. And again, post-game should just be extra, but post-game sometimes actually is part of the general gameplay, right? Post-game, when I talk about it, sure, shiny hunting doesn't need to be a post-game thing, but usually that's what you do at the end of your journey, right? You don't go shiny hunting when you're halfway through the game. You do it once you're done with the game. So it's just really a post-game thing. Most things that you do are post-game things. Now, I've heard arguments from people saying like, oh, Pokemon Yellow didn't have this or that, right? Or, for example, if I say that like, oh, there are only Gen 1 Pokemon in these games, that's a problem. Why aren't there more Pokemon? People will argue, well, there weren't more Pokemon in Yellow, and these are supposed to be inspired by Yellow, etc, etc, etc. Well, then I asked the question, then if there are no Pokemon past Gen 1 in these games, and it's because it's inspired by Yellow, then why are there Mega Evolutions? Mega Evolutions were never in Yellow. Mega Evolutions didn't exist in that time. Not even Alola forms existed, but they're still in these games. So the idea that just because it didn't exist in Yellow, it shouldn't exist in these games, it's really just a bad argument. Also, that's another thing, right? People will use these old games, the original games, as an argument when those games didn't have any post-game to begin with. Sure, the thing though is, we've already, over the course of time, we've gone and improved, but now we're just going backwards. And that's the problem, right? We took a few steps forwards, and now it's like we've gone all the way back and even further back. It's just we're going backwards instead of forward. And to begin with, right, even Yellow, the way it is, right, it still had wild battles. These games don't. So even in that aspect, these games aren't faithful in that way either. So either way, it's just kind of me, nitpicking here. I'm sorry about that. But let's just go over to another thing that's really just negative about these games, and that's the overly casualized aspect of them. And here's the problem, right? Pokemon is already casual as is. These games are already casual as is. Pokemon has been casual since day one. It's always been a casual game. So when you decide to make it even more casual, you are really alienating a huge part of your audience of people who, just already understand the base level Pokemon and don't need to be, you know, kind of handheld all the way through the game. Now, what are some ways of them casualizing it? Well, for example, your starter Pokemon is overpowered and gets moves that make no sense. For example, giving Pikachu double kick at like level 9 is ludicrous. Why did they do this? Because Pikachu, using double kick, is able to beat Brock easily. But then what do they do with that? Well, they give gyms this weird thing where you have to have the type advantage against them, which is just ludicrous, right? So they're forcing you to, one, they're giving you a Pikachu that's already strong as, like, it's just bonkers, right? It's really strong. The fact that Pikachu has double kick, which is going to counter the first gym, and also because Pikachu's Pikachu is going to counter Misty, right? You're really strong against the first two gyms, like, this easily. And on top of that, the gym requirements force you to get Pokemon that are strong against the gym, which is just kind of like, why don't you just let us, like, trial and error our way through, right? If I'm a dumb kid, right, and I go in and I make these mistakes, I go in and I get destroyed by Brock. Well, I learned from my mistake and I realized, okay, maybe that wouldn't work. Maybe I should go and catch another Pokemon. So I go into the forest, I maybe catch myself, I go into Radiant Forest, maybe I try to look for a different Pokemon, etc., right? Or maybe I go back to a previous route and I catch myself a Nidoran or something, you know what I mean? Like, where is the trial and error? You're just forcing us to go down a specific path, and you're just making that path more narrow and narrow and narrow. And that's the problem there with the over-casualization. Well, another aspect of the casual part is that you can literally use the co-op mode to battle even easier against enemies. So the thing is, when you battle enemies and you use co-op, the enemy will actually be facing two of you, and not in a double battle. So the enemy will keep using one Pokemon and you'll keep using two Pokemon. So if you are with a friend, or you can do this on your own as well with just the two Joy-Cons, right? You can use two characters at the same time to defeat the player's one Pokemon, right? Because it's going to be two of your Pokemon versus one of his Pokemon, and that's just giving you even more advantages to make you even stronger. A little bit stupid in my eyes. So, what else? You have the friendly rival that won't give you a challenge. Now, this friendly rival isn't really over casualized thing. This is more just a side thing, which is just that they've kind of gone down this route again where they make your rival less of a rival and more of a friend. And that's where I see the problem, right? A rival should be somebody that rivals you in all aspects. Somebody, yeah, sure, you can be on a friendly level, right? But they should always be kind of like the person trying to take you down. Whereas this rival is giving you advantages, he's giving you things, he's giving you items, right? That's not what a rival should do. A rival should always challenge you and try to be better than you and not help you. That's the problem I see here is, they keep making the rivals somebody that, you're supposed to like, whereas the rival in the past was somebody you were supposed to dislike and try to beat. And then at the end, when you beat them, they gain, or you gain their respect. You've proven to them that you are better than them, and at that point, you are the champion, right? So that's the thing with these games, is that they keep making the rivals more and more and more casual and friendly and whatnot, and it's just kind of, it defeats the purpose of a rival at that point. Just remove the rival. Don't even have a rival if they're just going to be a friend at that point. So, I don't know, that's just one of my nitpicks, so to say. But what else? Pokemon was already casual. Now, this was a point I made earlier. Pokemon has always been casual, so making it even more casual makes no sense. Pokemon has always been kind of easy. They've always given you tutorials of, well, this is what you gotta do, this is how you catch a Pokemon, etc, 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 right? But we already know that. And now they're just making it even more casual, where the tutorial part of it kind of sticks through the whole game. Because throughout the whole game, you're still going to be told exactly what to do. Oh, you want to take on this gym? Well, you need this and this thing to take on this gym, etc, etc, etc. It feels like every iteration, it just gets more and more easy, and you just keep getting an arrow that shows you exactly where to go. When we played through these games when we were younger, we didn't have these arrows showing us where to go. Sure, was it casual back then as well? Hell yes. But does that mean that they need to make it even more casual today? I don't think so. Sure, are there a lot of children today that aren't that smart? I can agree with that. Sure, there are a lot of kids that aren't too smart, but just because they aren't too smart doesn't mean that you shouldn't still give them a challenge. And also, there are people that aren't just like, 5 or something that are playing Pokemon. You're making this so easy that an unborn child can play it at this point. Like, it's ludicrous. But either way, let's continue. So, what's another part that's negative here? And this is outside of the casualization part. Now we're done with those points. So, what next? Lack of shiny hunting methods. Now, this is just base level, right? This is something that we know off of right now. We haven't seen more about it. But it seems like the lack of shiny hunting methods is going to really be detrimental to a lot of the community, because a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, do love shiny hunting. And shiny hunting is a big part of the Pokemon community. I mean, look at Twitch. The whole the whole like Pokemon section on Twitch is like 80% people shiny hunting, and like 10% people Wi-Fi battles, and like 5% fan games, and the 5 other percent is like random stuff. But like majority of people are shiny hunting. That's like what people do on Twitch. That's what the audiences want to see. And when a brand new game comes out, that section is going to be flooded, and a lot of people want to see shiny hunting. But these games just won't offer many methods for the shiny hunter to have fun in, or fun ways to, you know, actually shiny hunt and do these things. It just won't be possible. It won't be a thing. You just won't have that option. It just won't be there. And that's what we've seen so far. Now, again, this could be something that could change over time, since we don't know yet if there's going to be any more methods. But because the game has your Pokemon the overworld, and you can see the shiny Pokemon in the overworld, that already just there tells us there's not going to be any methods to it, right? You're going to be able to see the Pokemon in the overworld. So how will you be able to shiny hunt? Will you be able to just kind of use some sort of tool to be able to call in several Pokemon, and then as you kind of like catch each one of them, there's a higher chance to get a shiny? Or like, what kind of method will there be? Because the way I see it right now is the only way to shiny hunt is just to stay in a route and hope for a shiny, right? Just a random encounter. There doesn't seem to be any specific method for it, because there is also, by the way, there's no breeding in these games. So you won't be able to, you know, breed Pokemon to get them shiny. That won't be possible. So really, you're just kind of left in this really, really weird position where, like, well, what way will I be able to shiny hunt here? Also, fishing in these games, will you be able to fish? Because shiny hunting through fishing is a method that people are used to and really like. So will you be able to do that? Or will that not be possible either? Because of the fact that you can see Pokemon the overworld and there are no random encounters in these games. So again, that's a big problem, right? It's a big part of Pokemon, so now that's also gone. So that's one thing. Now, what else do we have? Well, these are some quick points, right? Just some quick last points I want to bring up here. So, Mew is held behind a paywall. I don't like this. The fact that Mew is held behind a paywall is a little bit frustrating. It's a Pokemon that, at this point, I just feel like, come on, man. Seriously, why would you hold this behind a paywall? It's just ludicrous. And as well, if it's really strong, which Mew should be, if it's really strong and people buy it, and then you go into, like, competitive play, and these people use Mew against you, you're going to get mollywopped, you know what I mean? If you go into Wi-Fi battles, you're going to get mollywopped by somebody using Mew. So that's just that. But now, what else? No good post-game. We already talked about this, but these games lack a post-game. It's just a big problem for me that there is no major post-game. The only post-game we have are those master trainers, but they don't seem to offer much. I do hope that once you defeat all of them, there is some big thing that happens, but it's unlikely. And again, just really poor post game. At least in Ultra Sun and Moon, in those games, you still had shiny hunting, you had different methods of training, different methods of, you know, Wi-Fi battling, you had the battle tree, you had the Rainbow Rocket post game, you know, episode, you had Ultra Wormhole shiny hunting. I mean, see, just like that, right? I mean, I'm just listing so many of the features there in terms of post game. Here, I just can't think of many other than the master trainers, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's the only post game I can think of. And then surface level trading, surface level Wi-Fi battling, and surface level shiny hunting. And that's it. Again, surface level. Really like bare bones. So what else? No abilities, no abilities, no natures, I guess in the game. Those are, no abilities and no items. That's what I was going to say. I'm not sure. I think natures are still around, right? I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Maybe natures are not around. I am unsure. I'm going to be honest. But I know there are no abilities and there are no items. So that's a thing that's just kind of not going to be viable in terms of, you know, Wi-Fi battles. Competitive. But again, these games, again, like people keep saying, these are not meant to be competitive. So fair enough. What else? No GTS. No Wonder Trade. Lack of trial and error. This is something I've talked about before. There's a lack of difficulty in the game where, you know, you have to try your way forward. That's a big problem. Like, if you don't let people kind of like struggle a little bit in the game, it just doesn't make for a good game. It just doesn't make for a good journey if everything is handed to you and you're told exactly what to do. That isn't fun. You're just doing what the game is telling you to do at that point, and you're not trying your way forward. That's what at least made the original Gen 1 games fun, because, you know, you tried your way forward. If you were taking on Brock, you didn't just go in there and defeat him like this, or you were told what to get to defeat him, or they give you a Pikachu with double kick. No. What you did with the original games was you went and you caught yourself a Nidoran, and then you got double kick on that Nidoran, and that's how you took on the gym. Oh, you take it on Misty? Well, then just get yourself a Pokemon that can counter Misty, right? You know, you used Pokemon that made sense, or you found your own way through the game. You did trial and error. Now that isn't even a thing anymore, because you're told exactly what to get, and you're given everything to begin with. It just doesn't make for as much of a fun journey. So, that is just about it. There is one more personal hatred thing I have for these games, and that is the bad move names. Sizzly Slide still sounds so bad. I do not like it. These names are just ludicrous, but that's also more to the North American side. At least the Japanese names are really good for these moves, but the English names are just really childish. So that's just that. Now, the biggest problem with these games, I will say, is the philosophy. The games are based on a philosophy of mobile games. Masuda himself admitted that his whole structure for these games and the philosophy behind these games was the style of mobile games, right? And why is this a problem? Well, the reason why this is a problem is that mobile games are inherently bad. They are just bad. They are focused not on being good games, but rather focused on taking your money out of your pocket as fast as possible and leaving you with as short and as much as of an unsatisfying game as possible. The thing with mobile games is that you're not even playing. If you guys have tried one of those really bad mobile Pokemon games that are ripoffs, right? All you do is press a button. You just keep pressing the button. You're not actually doing anything. You're just pressing a button, right? You're not actually thinking. It's just auto walking for you. The last thing Pokemon needs now is just auto walking like those mobile games, and boom, there you go. You got yourself the perfect kind of idea of what a Pokemon mobile game you would look like, based on kind of the style of the main series games, because that's where this is headed right now. Eventually, I feel like Masuda's gonna add in a auto walking feature, right? Because it's too much to even walk on your own. You gotta have it auto walk for you. Seriously, I feel like that's the biggest problem here, is that the philosophy behind the games is not to make a good game with a lot of features and a lot of things to do, but rather to make a short game with as little things to do, so that it's as bare bones as possible with the philosophy of a mobile game, which is what mobile games are. You're not meant to play a mobile game in a long fashion. You're supposed to take a shit and play a mobile game. That's how you're supposed to play it, not to sit down, have a good time, and play the game for several hours and then have a post game, etc. They're meant to be played like this, snap of a finger, and then you're done. So yeah, guys, that's just the negatives and the positives. Again, I've said a million times, these games, if you want to buy them, buy them. If you don't want to buy them, don't buy them. Just wait until next year and hope that we get a better game. If we do not get a good game next year, then I think Pokemon is in a bad spot, and I feel like we can just say bye-bye to any future good Pokemon games if they go down the route of what they're doing right now. But it feels like at least the president of the Pokemon company doesn't seem to want to go down that route. He seems like he wants to at least, give us a good game next year, based on what he was saying about 2019 and the way he looks at it. And these games that we're getting this year, these are just like passion projects from Masuda. It was his excuse to make these games was basically, he's always wanted to make these games. He's always wanted to make Pokemon into kind of a mobile side game now for several years, and he finally got the opportunity. He finally had the excuse to make these games, and that's why we're getting Let's Go games. So hey, it's fine. If you want to play these games, go ahead. If you enjoy these games, that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with enjoying these games, loving them, playing them, etc. That's totally okay. Others may not, some may. We'll just see how it turns out once the games are fully released. If they end up being fun, I will make a full video telling you, hey, they were great. I'll be doing a review on the game, so I will be doing a proper video telling you what are these games. Are they good, bad, etc. So yeah, guys, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed it. Drop a dislike if you didn't enjoy it. Have a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.